much more. I am passionate about our country. I choose to support any conversation geared towards building a better Nigeria. I am Babajide Kolaji Otitoju. Join me every Saturday on TVC News YouTube channel as I discuss Nigeria and the world at large on the show Issues with Jide.
Thank you for joining us. It is time now to know what's on the front pages of the Nigerian newspapers. Joining me in the studio for now is Chartered Accountant and Public Affairs Analyst Olusegun Okunade. Good morning.
Thank
you for joining us on TVC
Thank
Breakfast.
God it's Friday.
Yes, thank God it's Friday. All right, we hope that CKN will join us, but then let's begin looking at the papers from the Daily Times. And the headline here says, Buhari reassures children of protection against attacks. Yesterday was Children's Day, and this is the statement coming from the president. You find that story, details of that story on the pages of the Daily Times. We move now to the Daily Trust. Retirement dangles on 30 generals as Buhari appoints Yahaya as Chief of Army Staff. Expert, APC set agenda for new army chief. He won't disappoint Nigerians, Kingsmen. Right, to the Nation newspaper now. How hashtag NSAS protests weakened police by IG. States already running local police. Operation Restore Peace yielding results. That statement was made by the Inspector General of Police yesterday. Well, to the Punch newspaper now, illegal oil deals. Federal government fails to recover $69 billion loot in American banks. 28.3 trillion naira illegal funds remain in Texas banks since firm's discovery in 2019. Ex-NSA Azaz's $9 billion loot can be recovered within 3 months. U.S. firm. To the Nigerian Tribune, non-state actors bent on frustrating democracy. NSA, 11 offices, 1,105 ballot boxes, 694 voting cubicles, 429 generating sets lost to attacks in 4 weeks, INEC boss says. To the Nigerian News Direct now, APC expert task new Chief of Army Staff Yahaya on security. To the First newspaper, exclusive, Yahaya's appointment, retirement fear grips senior military generals. To the Blueprint now, emergence of new Chief of Army Staff, APC sets agenda as mixed feelings greets Yahaya's choice. All right, we move to the Leadership newspaper now. 30 generals to go as President Muhammadu Buhari appoints new Army Chief Farouk Yahaya. To the This Day newspaper, jubilations in Maiduguri as Yahaya emerges new Army Chief. Several generals may retire. And on the Vanguard newspaper now, 20 generals may go as Buhari names Yahaya new Chief of Army Staff. 20 calls 36 generals face instant retirement. His appointment from regular course 37 pushes him above course 36 officers. It's the tradition in the military for seniors to bow out when juniors ascend. To the Daily Sun now, 45 generals to retire as Buhari names Yahaya Army Chief. Officers of courses 35-36 most affected. And to the Business Day now, high input costs, insecurity, climate change take toll on food prices. To the National Economy, Nigeria's oil industry faces shaky future as global community endorses zero carbon emissions roadmap. Well, okay, that's all we have on the papers this morning. But we'll look at the recent developments. Yesterday, the president appointed a new chief of army staff, and there has been reactions to his choice and that decision made yesterday, Shesom. mixed reactions or mixed feelings to the choice made by the president. Let's begin from there.
Yeah, we expect such whenever appointment is being made in any strata. There are bound to be people that will be in favor, those that will be against it. But the fact remains that let me give kudos to the presidency for the swift reaction, because we've been looking at it that we know the antecedent that most of the time when we have this kind of gap, it takes a little while before the presidency react. But for this, the swift response is well appreciated. Let me also condole with the family of the late Atairu, a gallant army officer, which the work he did for that short period would definitely be appreciated. But be that it may, we now have the new Chief of Army Staff, who is Farouk here. We know before now was the Commander Officer of the Yaya Dole, who has been frontline in the area of terrorism. We want him to bring to bear. Everybody is setting
his
agenda,
wealth of experience.
You know, some of the things that you've been doing at the back end, you know, he's been at the back end giving support to the Chief of Army Staff before now. Now, let's see what is obtainable as you come at the mantle of leadership, overseeing the affairs of things. And what is the major thing everybody wants? Peace. No other thing than peace. Whatever it will take. The federal government has actually mentioned to us that provision of weapons and things to use to fight this terrorism is there. It seems it's just they are incapacitated or they are not well motivated. But considering the jubilation at the announcement of this man yesterday, I see a different version to it of having seen him as a team player. Perhaps. That the people will definitely want to support to bring this menace of terrorism.
So you're confident that he can build on the successes recorded by the late Chief of Army Staff, and perhaps build that relationship that we saw between the late Chief of Army Staff. Recall he went to the front lines to speak with those who were on the front lines to some sort of motivate them. Yeah, we saw that, and so we are a lot of Nigerians expecting to see that as well from him.
Yeah, you know, if you, as a leader, if you come in as a new person, taking place of leadership, and the followers, because it's not the leader that does the work. Let's take that clear. Absolutely. It's not the leaders. It's the supporting staff that you have, that the frontliner, that will definitely give that success to that leader. So when a new sheriff come in town and you see people celebrating, that means he has an antecedent of a team player that the people are like, oh, finally, somebody who can give a listening ear, somebody who can, who feels our pain is not at the end of affair. Right. And I see that as a plus. Now being able to annex it, work with it, and make sure that we put an end to this. When the frontliners are motivated, they are enthusiastic in carrying out their assignment, then you see that there will be great improvement.
One thing that has been of concern for a lot of persons is, over time, is the aspect of collaboration among security operatives and all of that. Are you hoping to see that perhaps he might also push that as he is coming now?
Yeah, it's not only in the military that we have this problem. And until we leave this aspect of trying to take unnecessary glory, let me put it that way, I achieved this, I. Until we kill that spirit of I did this, we may continue to have the problem, because you discover that the Air Force want a situation where they will say, okay, these are things that we've done, we did this, the naval, everybody, but there is great success when there is teamwork. And that is what we have been advocating for. Not situation where there is no share of communication among the military details. That alone, on its own, creates setback. But if there can be a cohesion between the various arms of this military arm, where the Air Force knows where to come in to support the army who are operating on the ground, and the naval knows where to come in for areas where we have coverage, you know, with waters, and they are able to synergize that information on a central basis. You discover that even the enemy, the terrorists themselves, they will enter into their share. But capitalizing on the disintegration of information among some of these things is a problem on its own. But I think with him coming on board, having achieved some success as a commander theater operation for the Lafayette Dole, he should be able to have a good leeway, and we'll see some of this issue of terrorism coming down.
All right, let's bring CEO CKN News, Chris Kenewandu. Good morning. Thank God it's Friday, Chris.
Very good morning. I hope you are doing great.
Very well, thank you. Now let's quickly get your reaction to this appointment by the president. That's the appointment of the new Chief of Army Staff. You know, he has held several appointments, including staff, instructional, and command. And until his appointment, he was the theater commander of Operation Hadin Kai, the counterinsurgency operation in the Northeast. So a lot of persons are expecting that he will bring all of those experiences to the table.
Yes, the appointment of General Yahya is just following the pattern which the president has set in the appointment of the past Chief of Army Staff, starting with General Buratai, retired, and also the late Atayiru Ibrahim. The president decided to go for field officers who have a taste of action in the theater command. So the president is only following that pattern with the appointment of the general. And don't also forget, it's at the discretion of the president to appoint anybody who he deems fit for the position of any of the service chiefs, including that of the Chief of Defense Staff and other security heads. So then also we should also commend the president for also doing the needful as quickly as possible.
Right.
By making sure there is an appointment just after a few days of the death of late Chief of Army Staff, because the military is an institution that we cannot just leave without a leader. So be that as it may be, his appointment or this current appointment has also brought some lacuna, in the sense that some military officers also have to give way. We recorded that some were expecting that if the president is not picking from his Court 35, of which General Atayiru was a member, then he could also pick from 36, Court 36. But he decided to go for 37, which automatically means that definitely those within the 36 regular courts may have to give way, because in military tradition, you don't see a senior officer taking order from a junior officer. Then also, it will also be recalled for the emphasis that even those within the class of 35, practically all of them have been retired about 2 months ago. Most people don't understand. We know that most of them have been retired from our investigation. So they are just left with about just two or two generals left within that rank. So what we're going to see is that the class of 36, unfortunately, will not have somebody from their rank becoming the Chief of Army Staff. So, but there are also some other lacuna being raised, because also with the appointment of Yahya, you also come to realize that he's also a junior to some of the security chiefs already in place. I think that of the Navy is about 35. But the issue is that if those in the Army within the course of 36 are going to leave, but this also means that their mates in the Air Force and Navy will also leave. Those might be the implication also. But let's see what happens. As I said, it's within the discretion of the president to appoint anybody. But the most important aspect of it, as Jason rightly said, is that we want somebody that can prosecute this war, as it were. There are a lot of insurgency, kidnapping, banditry, and all sorts of criminality going on across Nigeria, not just in the northeast or northwest, but across south, southwest, and even even in the southeast. So he need to hit the ground running, and they come with something very, very new to make sure that this level of insecurity that we're challenges facing us now is nipped in the bud as quickly as possible.
All right. Now, before we let you go, Chris, the other issue we are considering is the issue of the ASUP strike. We saw that there was a protest by the National Association of Polytechnic Students yesterday in Abuja asking the government to do something. And the government, in response, says that the onus lies with ASUP to call off the strike, that they have met the demands of the association, because the association made 15 demands and government, I think, resolved 2 out of 15, and the students are agitating, and the ASUP is saying that they are not going to end the strike unless the government listens to them. What do you make of all of the situation, especially when you look at the educational system in the country, how it's affecting students who are now agitating that they need to return to school, and you also consider the level of insecurity in the country as well?
Well, surprised, I'm not surprised that we're having this. But don't forget that for close to 1 year, we had ASUP strike. We are talking of ASUP now. We had ASUP strike over 1 year. In fact, I don't even know whether that is true. Whether all the schools have fully resumed, I don't know. I need to find out the federal and the state universities I mean. I don't know whether they are fully resumed. They were at home for 1 year, and we are dilly-dallying on whether ASUP demands have been met or will be met or will not be met, and the rest of them. And ASUP, from what I've gathered, I think they've been on strike for another about 2 months now. If I have to follow what you said, I'm not ready to say that out of 15 demands, government have been able to meet only 2. Then what have they met? So what of the remaining 13? It is only in this country that we pay lip service to the issue of education. Most often than not, those in government don't seem to understand the implication of in education. And that is, and you know why? Most of them don't have their children here. All they do is just send their children abroad, send them to the United Kingdom, send them to America, and the rest of them. You see it on a daily basis when they go for their graduations and the rest of them. So they don't even understand what is happening. So they can just close their eyes and go to bed without caring a huge whether the students are at home or not. Education is the key foundation of every nation. Remove education, there will be a total collapse, because those we are training today are those that are going to take up the mantle of leadership in the next few years. These politicians, as they were, and leaders and the rest of them, all of them will go away. Most of them will die. The young shall grow, yes, but the old will surely die. So if we don't give them the basic foundation they need as of this moment, then we have a very, very terrible future. And don't forget, and it baffles me because most of them also went through this system and enjoyed the force of education in Nigeria. Most of them went to school free. Most of these present leaders that we have, most of them went to school free. And I remember in those days, I was told that once you graduate from the university, you'll be given a vehicle free. You'll be given accommodation and the rest of them. Right. 90% of our graduates now these days don't even get the job. So I think it is right time for the government to be faithful and see what they got. Because let's take, for example, the issue of NSAS. Most of about 80% of that NSAS protest was prosecuted by students who were at home, who had nothing doing. All right. And when you leave students unattended to that, there's a tendency for most of them to even get into crimes and the rest of them. We are talking of students going into Yahoo, and the rest of them. Most of these guys are people that are not fully engaged. So I think the government should do and make sure that they just sort out this problem as possible.
Thank you, CEO CKN News, Chris Kehinde-Nwandu, for your time on the newspaper review. But let's get back to the studio now, Sheson. I'd like you to weigh in on this conversation with regards to the ASUP strike, talking about the polytechnics now. We've seen that one of the issues that has reoccurred across the board when it comes to strike is the fact that these people always say that government is always reneging on their agreements. They keep pushing a particular thing for, you hear 10 years, they've been talking about this for years and years, and government is not adhering to its agreement. I wonder what we can do what these associations can do to hold government to account, to meet up with its promises. I mean, these are students who are at home. Their time is being lost.
Vero, is quite disheartening, the position of our leaders when it comes to education. And if I may say, I think what they are practically doing is getting to the ladder, use the ladder to achieve what they want, and they decide to break the bridge. Why am I saying this? Like CKN said, majority of them attended the school locally. But now what are they doing? They decide to kill the educational system here and send their own children overseas to have the best of such education. I don't expect anything less, and they will not respond. I'm saying they would not, because
Why?
if you are not part of this, when you don't know how this thing pinches, then you can't react to it.
So what should the association do? Keep up with the strike? Students are at home.
That's because the government, who is supposed to provide the welfareism and direction for the student, are not serious about it. The demand of those people, like actually I didn't study, but I know it borders about the welfareism of some of those people. Some of them have agitated for a better, conducive atmosphere for learning.
Yes.
You need to go to some of these polytechnic schools, and that's why we are backward in the system too. Polytechnic is supposed to give technical education. And that's where everybody is going these days. People need creativity. You know, when you look at Polytechnic and university, Polytechnic gives the technical skills, which everybody needs, creativity. But what have we gotten? The atmosphere is not just good for learning. The staff are struggling. Even when they are not advocating for their own personal entitlement, they are asking that let's have good classrooms, let's have good lecture rooms for these students even to have the best. But because some of the children are not attending the school, how many of their children goes to Polytechnic? Not even talk of university. So they won't feel the pinches. So they will just tell them, well, if you are 15 and we've attended to 2, you are not ready to, just go to bed and sleep. That's why we had for 1 year ASUP were at home. You can imagine those days when they will give an instruction and be telling us that when we want to recruit, we need a 25, a 27, a 20. Now you cannot do that because practically 2, 3, 4, 5 years,
but
the
the unions, on the other hand, know that the government, this is what it has been over time. Even while I was a child, I've always heard of strikes, university, Polytechnic. Why can't you ensure that government attend to whatever agreements you have had over the years? Because this keeps spilling over to successive governments.
It comes back to, most of the time, it is we or parents that will put pressure and say, you asked for 15, they've met like 5. If you are passionate about what you are doing, why not just yield? Trust the government, they will do something. And some of them, because they are so compassionate and they have the feeling and, you know, the way to make sure that those children have the belt, they will yield and say, okay, we call up the strike, hoping that the government will respond. And what will the government do? They will not do anything for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and you see them asking, what can you do? It's not, we've seen that in ASUP, we've seen that in ASUP, we've seen that with SASUM. All the union, they keep requesting for one thing and government has not. But I think it's high time. The reason why we are having some of these challenges is because our educational system has collapsed.
Right.
There are no values any longer. What the people we have at the end of our affairs enjoyed, majority of them are not enjoying these days. Do we still have free education? Most people are paying through their nose to have this education, and they are not even getting it as at the time that they should get it. Now, those days, you can see people at age 25, 27 graduating, but what do we have now? You spend about 3, 4, 5 years on strike. I was on the program when I was saying it takes you 5 years to close a school, and the man was saying, did you school in UK? He said, that's not obtainable again. Where you have to say when you're 100 level, after your first year, you go for 1 year strike, you resume back again after 200 level, you go for another 1 year strike. This is what we've been facing in the educational sector. And it's high time the government must take this with all seriousness. If indeed they are aware that we are the future leaders of tomorrow, they must bring educational system back, respond to the request of some of this union to make sure that we have good educational system.
All right, we'll leave the conversation here now. Chartered accountant and public affairs analyst Olusegun Okunade. Thank you for your time.
It was a pleasure, Veronica.